I don't, man, I've been in church my whole life. I sit and listen to sermon after sermon, topic after topic. This is one I don't hear preached hardly ever at all. One church I went to, the preacher preached on this subject, and man, he got chewed out on the way to his car. People quit, people calling him, fussing at him. I don't know if the deacons got on to him, probably did. I mean, he just had all kinds of mess. And he's like, man, I can't believe I got such a feedback for that. And it's like, because nobody's used to hearing no tough preaching anymore. Everybody's used to hearing the candy stuff. When you finally touch on something that Jesus preached on all the time, everybody's crying around and everything. But listen, because we don't preach this subject, that's why we got so many problems today. And I'm going to preach it. I'm going to preach just like Jesus said it. Jesus was bold enough to preach it because he preached it. He mentioned it twice in Matthew, once in Mark, once in Luke, and we're going to John after Matthew this time. So this probably the last time I have to preach it for a little while. So I'm going to preach it good today and get it over with. One person told me I heard what I was preaching. They said they wasn't coming. I didn't hear it. So, all right. Maybe they're watching online. All right. Okay, this is, well, they say Matthew 5. Yeah, it is. Matthew 5. Okay, 19. Sorry about that. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and teach men to do so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So if I teach you wrong, because I want everybody to like me, guess what? To God, I'm the least in them. But if I'm teaching you right, and I'm doing them, I'm living them right, then I'm the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I want to be the greatest kingdom of heaven. I don't want to be on the bottom. And so I'll take the heat if I have to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I don't mean it as a pride thing. It's just like, why would you want to be the worst, okay? James 3. My brethren, be not many masters, and that means teachers. That don't mean like I'm your master. It means teachers. Knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. So if I don't teach you right, guess what? On Judgment Day, I'm going to pay for it no more than most people will. And I tell you, man, there don't need to be a lot of teachers out there. There's a lot of people, if you're not willing to study, if you're not willing to try the scriptures, weigh them out, balance them, go through them, and come to the best conclusion you possibly come to, then you don't need to be a teacher because we got enough junk out here. I spend every day of my life fighting, wading through junk, teaching. Junk, just pure mess. The Bible says in the last day, man is coming to make merchandise of you. I'm not here to make merchandise of nobody. I'm not going to teach stuff that's popular. There's things I can do in a heartbeat that'll fill this place up, but it's wrong and it's lying. And if everybody likes a certain preacher, it's a first sign. It's probably a false prophet. And probably he's not teaching everything he needs to teach. Okay, then we go. Matthew chapter 19. It came to pass that when Jesus had finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coast of Judea beyond Jordan. What did he do? Well, let's go back to Deuteronomy for a second. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Both of the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shalt thou put away evil from Israel. So what's the Old Testament law on adultery? They was to be dead. And the reason I'm pulled that up, and I pulled it up early, is to show you there's a difference between adultery and fornication. Adultery, you was to die. Okay, that was the penalty for, and it should be the penalty today, honestly. It should be the penalty today. One bad thing, though, there wouldn't be hardly anybody living if it was the penalty. We'd be walking around like an apocalypse happened or something. But I tell you, I've not seen anything that causes more trouble in a person's life than adultery. And it will destroy your health. There's been studies that people commit adultery, their heart starts giving out. They got to live with guilt about their whole life. And just never will be the same. And why does people just live in adultery like wide open and they never stop and they never slow down and it's so common and it ain't shocking? Because preachers are not preaching against it enough. TV is pushing it all day, every day. But preachers, oh man, I can't have nobody mad at me. A great multitudes followed him and he healed them there. So Jesus healed everybody that's followed him. Okay, now the Pharisees coming to him, tempting him, saying to him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause. And from my understanding, in Jesus' time, there was a school of thought that said, no, you know, you're only allowed to put your wife away if she's supposed to be a virgin when you married her, and she wasn't. There's kids here, but they were done a test. They threw a white sheet down, and on your wedding day, you consummated your honeymoon on that white sheet. And there's supposed to be an evidence there of virginity. You older people know what I'm talking about. If it wasn't there, you could get in some bad trouble. Okay? And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? And he said, for this cause shall man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. We're now one. We're not two people, we're one. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. Let not women at the beauty shop, you need to leave him, you need to leave him. Not let the lawyers get rich and buy billboards, divorce, $300. Not let the judges or the preachers or whatever's pushing this junk. Jesus said, don't let man separate what God's put together. They said, why did Moses then command to give a right to divorcement and put her away? He didn't command. He gave you an option. This is Deuteronomy 22. If a man take a wife and go into her and hate her, and give occasion of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman when I came, I found her not a maid. A maid means virgin. Remember I told you about the sheep here a minute ago. Okay, this was what was normal for 2,000 years. Well, not 2,000, 6,000 years. It was normal up to what? The 50s, 60s? And then the free love culture come in and absolutely destroyed our culture. But this right here was normal up until then. And then shall father the damsel, then shall the father the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity to the elders of the city. That's that white sheet with evidence. That's the token. No, my daughter was a virgin. You're lying. And the damsel's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter this man to wife, and he hates her. Oh, he hated her, sorry, I mean trying to change the Bible. And lo, he gave occasion of speech against her, saying, I found not my daughter maid, and yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. And the elders of that city shall take that man and chastise him. And they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver and give him to the father of the damsel, because he brought up an evil name of a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife and may not put away all of his days. Once you're married, that's what people understand. Once you're married, you're stuck. You're to death do you part, like we say. But if this thing be true, and the tokens of virginity be not found for the damsel, so if the father had the white sheet, and he threw that sucker out, it's like, uh-oh, it's still white. There ain't no spots on it. Guess what? This ain't no laughing matter here. Then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of the father's house. And the men of her city shall stone her with stones that she die. Because she hath brought folly in Israel to play the whore in her father's house. So shalt thou put evil away from among you. Fathers, we have a responsibility to when we present our daughters to their husband, that she be a virgin. She's not going to be a virgin in 2021 if you let her go all over the place. Stay with anybody she wants to. Do whatever she wants to. Whenever she wants to. Trust me, she will not stay a virgin that way. Women are supposed to be protected. Daughters are supposed to be protected. Even till this day. And all you girls, it's constantly like to spend the night here, spend the night there, and you start tricking your parents, you start tricking your grandparents. Oh, I want to spend that. Listen, you're getting at an age where you need to be sitting yourselves at home. You don't need to be going to everybody's house under the sun. When I was in high school, all the mean boys really loved the girls that had a lot of freedom, if you know what I mean. How many times I've seen with my own eyes, in my own experience, girls will call, hey, can I spend a night with girl A? Yeah. Then girl A asks her parents, can I spend a night with girl B? Yeah. And guess what? They don't go to either one of them's house. They go somewhere else and meet boys. Freedom for a young girl, especially when she's getting in pregnancy age, needs to start lessening and lessening and lessening. So you're going to have to protect. Well, if you don't let me spend the night with all these people, I'll cry. Listen, I'd rather hear you cry than you and your little baby crying with no father and you and a teenager sitting at home and I'd hear both of you cry, okay? This needs to be preached. We throw our daughters out like sheep to the wolves. And I promise you, the men out there are wolves. They are wolves. That goes for you adults too, all of you. We got to be careful. The Bible is so strict on fornication. If you was caught and you lied and said, I'm a virgin, and you walked down the aisle with a white dress on and everybody's family come, they had a big great festival, everybody's celebrating and everything, then you end up not being a virgin. You was killed. You was stoned. That's how serious God takes this thing. And I had grandparents that was born in the early 1900s. People stayed virgins until they got married. People engaged wouldn't even hold hands, wouldn't even kiss until their wedding night. We've got so far away from that, from this culture of junk we live in. We got so far away from the Bible that, man, what I'm preaching right now is so odd. It's so weird. It's like being in a cult. But I'm telling you, if you claim to be Christian, you should already know this stuff. If you're in a church and you claim to worship God, this is the kind of stuff you need to be preaching. I don't hear this stuff preached very much. I don't care to be the popular man. I don't care to be the popular preacher. I don't pat myself on the back because I got a church full of people that likes me. I don't even pat myself on the back because I'm preaching what I'm supposed to be preaching. He said to Moses, because the hardness of your hearts suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it's not so. Who gave them? Moses did. Jesus said, but from the beginning, Jack, it ain't supposed to be so. Once you get married, you're welded together like glue. Why does divorce hurt so much? Because you're one. You rip each other apart. What would you do if you ripped your arm off right now? It hurts and you'd bleed to death. When a man this is back to Deuteronomy 24. When a man take a wife and marry her, and it comes to pass, she find no favor in his eyes, because he found some uncleanness in her. Let him write her a bill of divorcement. Everybody said, well, that's adultery. Well, it can't be adultery because if it's adultery, they got stoned. We read that earlier. If you cheated on your husband or wife, you was killed, you was stoned. That's just something that didn't like about her. There's some kind of uncleanness somewhere. Rather than give it to her and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. And to let her husband hate her, write her a bill of divorcement, and give it her in her hand, and send her out of his house, or let her husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that she defiled, for this is abomination of the Lord. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin which the Lord God given in inheritance. So right here, Moses gave, if you put your wife away and divorce her, she can go remarry. Remember, that was Moses, and that was Old Testament. Here comes Jesus. I say unto you, whoever put his wife, except it be for fornication. Now listen, that is not adultery. Guess what? Once you're married, you're stuck. What that's talking about was the sheep thing that we read earlier. The sheep thing, if you found out she wasn't a maid, guess what? You can have an annulment. Everything's fine for you. That's why it says fornication and not adultery. Jesus knows the difference in fornication and adultery. You can look that word up in Greek or whatever. Every word that's used, that word fornication, it's used for fornication rest in the Bible. Every word adultery is used in the Bible, right here, it's used everywhere else in the Bible as adultery. So adultery is not a reason for divorce. Fornication. If you marry somebody you know is not a virgin, well, you knew they wasn't, so you ain't got no reason to get divorced. This is talk about if you was lied to, if you thought you was getting a maid and you didn't. First chapter of the New Testament, Joseph thought he was getting a virgin. She ended up pregnant. What's he going to do? He was a just man, so he's going to put her away privately. But he was going to put her away. He was justified to do so. But the angel came and told him, said, look, man, that pregnancy is of the Holy Ghost. Okay, it said, be for fornication, she shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whoso marry her which is put away doth commit adultery. Almost all the new translations, this is why. I'm King James only. I don't care. Call me cult, call me redneck, call me closed-minded. Well, listen, at least I'm not in 800,000 different doctrines because every Bible says something different. Everywhere it says sexual immorality. Put away his wife except for sexual immorality. Can you be a bit more specific? Fornication is sexual immorality. So is watching porn. So are you allowed to divorce your husband and wife to watch porn? So is looking on a man or woman to lust. That's adultery in the heart. Are you allowed to leave your husband or wife if they watch porn or look at somebody in lust? No. It's talking about fornication. That's why, and you will not prove me wrong. I've studied this to death. I've heard preachers preach this a long time ago. I said, well, that can't be right. I've always heard if they cheat on you, go get you a nutter. And I heard preachers say it not long ago. The Bible says if you get cheated on, go get you a nutter. And no, it don't, sir. And you're just going to cause people to go out and commit adultery, and you're teaching against what Jesus taught. And I'm not going to teach against what Jesus taught. He taught this twice in Matthew, once in Luke, once in Mark. And Paul taught it in Romans. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how the law hath dominion over man as long as he liveth. For the woman which hath an husband is bound by law to her husband as long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she's loose from the law of her husband. That's your only out, it's death. So then, while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. And they don't give no ifs, ands, or buts there. But if her husband be dead, she is free from the law. So that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. This teaching is as popular as AIDS today in 2021. 1 Corinthians 7, this is Paul teaching this too. And in the married I command you, yet not I, but the Lord. Yet not I, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband. But if she depart, let her remain unmarried or reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. So separation is biblical, but you're supposed to say single if you separate. That's what it says here. And Paul said, but the rest I speak not, but to the rest speak I, not the Lord. If a brother have a wife, believeth not, she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. Hey, listen, if you got a husband that's not a believer, then you might change him. If you're living the way biblical you're supposed to be living, he's going to want to be living the same way. So husbands, if you want to convert your wife, live as biblical, as close to God as you possibly can. Your chance of converting her is going to go way up because you're going to be a lot easier person to get along with. Wives, you want to convert your husband, you live as biblical as the Bible tells you to. You're going to be a lot easier to get along with. You're going to show your husband something that he'll want, and he'll convert, he'll change. But if you nag each other, and you're getting on each other's nerves and being mean to each other all the time, you can't expect them to convert. If you got a husband that's unbeliever and you're out partying, drinking with them, then going to church on Sunday, you think that's going to convert them? You're dreaming. You're dreaming. Esther, sit down. Sit down. But the rest I speak not to the Lord. Okay, and the woman which hath a husband that believeth not, and be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. So that's what the New Testament teaches on divorce. What if? What if this? What if that? What if? I'm not going to jump in front of Jesus and give you no ways out. That's why I don't marry nobody. I won't marry nobody. Whenever this church first started, I had people ask me all the time, will you marry me? Nobody will marry us because we've been married before. I'm like,
Really? Because I've never heard a preacher ever preach against that. And people tell me all the time nobody marries because we've been, well, I've never heard preachers preached it, but they believe in it, obviously, so they're not marrying people. Okay. 1 Corinthians 7, for unbelieving husband sanctified by the wife, unbelieving wife sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now they are holy. How did their children become holy? Because they were starting to be raised in a Christian home. When the kids was born, there's an ungodly home, but they converted to Christianity. Now the kids are starting to become holy now because of how they lived and how they're being raised. But if unbelieving depart, let them depart. Brothers and sisters, not under bondage in this case, but God has caused us to peace. So we're allowed to divorce and remarry if we've been deserted. What do you think divorce is? Divorce is desertion. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? Or knowest thou, O man, whether thou save thy wife? But as God is distributed to every man as the Lord hath called everyone, and so let him walk. It's ordained in all churches. It is strict, man. The disciples said, if that be the case, the man be so with his wife, is good not to marry. But he said to them, all men cannot receive this, saying, they whom it is given. So they were just like 2021 America when they hear this message. Well, then who can get married then? If we got to stay with them, we can't never leave them. See, they had the same response we do today, but Jesus like that. That's the deal. So guess what? What if the United States of America had a law and said, you get one chance of marriage. That's it. You can't shack up. You can't do nothing. You get one case of marriage. When it's done, no more. You think people would just be marrying whoever? They'd be a little bit more picky who they marry? I know people that it seemed like they hit the jackpot on the second one. And it used to bother me. I'm like, man, the second one seems to be the one that God would arrange for them. What's the problem? Then I start thinking, why did they get married the first? Oh, they got them pregnant. Shouldn't have been fornicating to begin with. And listen, you don't have to marry somebody because you got them pregnant. That's probably a bad idea. I've had a lot of people that's got people pregnant and married them. It was not for them. Now listen, you got to take care of your kid. Once you bring them in this world, that's your responsibility 100%. And yeah, you probably should marry them, but you don't have to. If you know the marriage ain't going to work, be careful. And be careful who you marry anyway. Be very prayerful and very, very careful. Ariel, if you got a man that's driving you crazy while you're dating, don't marry the guy. Don't be an idiot. Adriana, if you got a guy that's not treating you right while you're dating, good chance he's not going to treat you right when you get married. I had someone that's very close to me. I can't really say how he's close to me because it'll give away who he was. He met this girl, and she said, I biblically knew, let's make it as clean as I can say it behind the pulpit. I biblically knew 17 men around the time I biblically knew you. Adults should know what I'm talking about. 17 men around the time, that's what she said. She said, and I believe you're the one who got me pregnant. So he's like, well, she was a female sex offender. So she couldn't leave the state. So he's stuck in the state now. He can't leave. She's had other kids with other men. And, been married multiple times. I'm pretty sure cheated on every single one of them. And he married her. How do you think that marriage ended up? You think it ended up real good? You think that was a wise decision? You think God didn't give him enough clues to have enough sense not to say I do to him? You know what happened? While he's working 2 or 3 jobs, he bought her a big, nice, pretty watch. He gets on Facebook one day, and another man's holding his watch up for sale. He goes, man, that looks like my wife's watch I bought her. And he looks, that looks like my kitchen. That looks like my house. That is my house. So while he's out working, the woman's got another man. Hey, you've had enough clues. You should know better. But how many times do we see people, married people, and everybody in the world telling them, don't. Please, don't. It's stupid. Don't. Your emotions, your love. Listen, people love crack and liquor and marijuana. It don't mean love ain't always what you follow. If you got a boyfriend, girlfriend driving you crazy, that is probably not the one for you. I had 3 people that warned me about marriage a long time ago, and I credit them 3 people for my marriage being strong, for me getting into it and knowing that I'm going to have to be at my best. One boys. My mom's mom. Both my grandparents, all my grandparents got divorced. Even some of my great-grandparents did. And my grandparents, both my grandmothers would sit me down and talk to me what kind of misery they went through. I mean, it was a nightmare. And they said the worst was hurting the kids. And then I had a pastor one time that told me, he got all the kids together. He said, you've never seen misery until you've married the wrong person. He said, do not marry the wrong person. And I don't know if you all believe this or not. I know this might sound like a big lie, but I used to be halfway decent looking man one time. And I had a lot of women that was like, hey, you know. No. One thing I was looking, I didn't date much for this one reason. Because I said, I've got to have a dedicated Christian, I mean, at least believe in Christ, at least we'll go to church. And I'm telling you, some of us in here know, just because you marry a Christian person, you ain't always 100% of the time going to get, they still might end up pretty rough. But you almost got a 0% chance of making it today if you marry somebody that's out in the world. I mean, almost zero. Back in my parents' day, they might marry a man, stay faithful to the family, work hard, take care of the family because they were raised that way. We're not raised that way in 2021. We're raised, if you don't get along, go get you another. Even in churches, go get you another. But he said to them, all men cannot receive this, a day for it is given. Okay, if you want some more homework, this is homework. Go to Malachi 2, especially verses 14 through 17. And read it slow because it's like Proverbs. It's a little bit hard to read. Okay, Malachi 2, remember that. For there are some eunuchs which were born from their mother's womb. That means they was born with some kind of deformities or something. They're going to be eunuchs. You know, women ain't going to be no problem. And there are some eunuchs who were made eunuchs of men. What they used to do there, Daniel in the Old Testament was one. They said, all right, these guys are going to be guarding the queen. These guys will be guarding the princess. We're going to make them eunuchs so I don't have to worry about no mess going on, okay? And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. And that's like Apostle Paul. That's like Jesus. Jesus like, man, ain't no sense getting married when my ministry is, I'm going to be getting killed and everything. I can't be married, wife and kid through all that. Paul knew he had such a strong calling, and he was so zealous for the Lord, even when he was a Pharisee, that family wasn't even an option. Because I'm telling you, you can get close to God being single. You get closer to God being single. I was closer to God one time I was single. Man, I tell you, when you got kids and a wife, guess what? They become a high priority, and they got to be a high priority. God tells us, take care of them. If you don't provide for your own, you're worse than an infidel. But I'm telling you, man, I've seen men for God that had such great potential. Won't hardly strike a lick at church. Won't even come close to church during T-ball season, baseball season, Little League, basketball. You know, they put church to the side and put the games and all that. And what's a lot of people put their kids before God. That's not what kids is for. You bring them kids up putting God first. Then there were brought to him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked them. But Jesus said, suffer the little children, forbid them not to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them and departed thence. And behold, one came and said, good master, what good thing shall I do that I might have eternal life? And he said, and why callest me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Now, is he denying being God here? Is Jesus good? Is he not? Yes, Jesus is good. When we get into John and done Matthew, it starts out telling you that Jesus is God. There's scriptures all through the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, telling you that Jesus is God. If you have a hard time believing Jesus is God, you're in a cult. You don't go by the Bible, you go by man-made religion, man-made doctrine. But thou enter life, keep the commandments. He said unto him, which Jesus said, thou shalt not do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Which one did Jesus not quote? He's putting God first before anything. The young man said unto him, all these things I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? We're not saved by works, really keeping commandments anyway. We're saved by believing. But once we believe, we still got to keep the commandments. Being holy is not salvation by works. Being holy is something we just got to do. And the Bible warns you many a times, if you live in iniquity, heaven's not going to be your home. Almost every New Testament writer would tell people that. Okay. Jesus said to him, if thou will be perfect, go and sell thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possession. What kind of possession do you think that man had? He was probably pretty good back in the day. Probably had some pretty good vases. Might have had a chariot and a horse. He might have had 2 or 3, 3 or 4 outfits. When everybody else just had 1 or 2. He probably has pretty nice stuff we wouldn't give 50 cents for today. Now the luxuries of 20 years ago is what's for sale for $5 at the Goodwill right now. The things people stayed out of church for to work for is now in the thrift stores for nothing. And now I'm getting the benefit of that because I get it cheap. You go work yourself out to death and then you give it away and I'll go buy it for 50 cents or whatever. But people's going to hell for possessions constantly. And what does Jesus constantly tell you? You're not supposed to be a worldly person. You're not supposed to be a materialistic person. Listen, if you work, especially in America, you work 6 days like the Bible tells you, you're going to have stuff. You got to provide for people. It's good to have money for rainy days. You got to pay your bills. You got to keep your car up, keep it, all that. But man, there's coming a time now we're living. It's winding down now. It's going to come time to have a choice. The Bible still says the mark of the beast is coming. And it still says you got to take a mark your right hand or your forehead or you're not going to have a job. Guess what? People's coming up right now. If you don't take this shot, it's making everybody I know sick. If 100 people take it, I know 90 of them sick. And I don't want to take it. Everybody's getting sick. Well, then you're going to get fired. And in some countries, they don't allow you to go to the grocery store or anything unless you've got the shot. Now, I'm not saying the shot's a mark of the beast, but I promise you, it's getting there. I've been kicked out of stores for not having a mask on. Why don't you wear a mask? Because I'm practicing. What are you practicing? I'm practicing not taking the mark of the beast. I'm practicing not having no freedoms if I don't take the satanic mark of the beast. And I'm telling you, who controls the story controls the people. And it shows that the people are not reading the Bible. The people are not studying the Bible like we was talking about earlier. The preachers are not pushing the people reading the Bible. I mean, you talk earlier, Karen, Sunday school is out the door. We don't want Sunday school anymore. We don't want to cry around and boo-hoo around. We don't want to study the Word. And that's why the world is following demonic ways instead of following God's ways. If you're in the Bible, you know what we're about to get into. And when you're about to get into what we know we're about to get into, you better not be materialistic. You better set yourself up and look at all the stuff you got. Say, oh, it sure was nice. Thank you, Lord. Let me have it. But I'm willing to kiss it goodbye. You better be telling your little spoiled kids. You might like them phones right now, but it's coming a day. You ain't going to have them. You might like its good steaks and the food stamps and the McDonald's. There's coming a day. It's going to be wild onions out on the lake. You better be getting yourself ready. Why ain't nobody ready? Why is Christians absolutely going the wrong way? Because they don't keep their nose in the Bible. And the preachers are trying to be liked and trying to be heroes and try to cater to everybody. And the people are not ready for what's coming. Jesus said to himself, verily I say to you, the rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. The rich man shall hardly enter the kingdom of heaven. Listen, Abraham had stuff, Job had stuff, a lot of people have stuff. But if you put it before God, it's going to be real hard to get it. Look, there's rich men, and I'm the kind of person who believes you earned it, you spent it yourself. So I know I've been around people that were millionaires. They worked a lot harder. Not all of them, but the ones I was around worked a lot harder, whole lot harder than a normal person does. They earned it, it's their money. But look how many of these millionaires, Jeff Bezos, all them guys. They got enough money to deteriorate every problem in the whole entire world. Boy, they do. They buy them big private lands, yachts, jets. What does preachers do today in 2021? They get a bunch of money and they buy them big mansions and jets and houses, and Christians are sitting there, I might get that. If I send them money, God might give that to me. That's false teachings. That's an ear-tickling doctrine. All you have to do is send them a little $10 and God's going to send you $100 back. Don't be a sucker. I fell for that stuff. I never did give them money, but I believed that, but I never did give them money. Man, John MacArthur became a millionaire teaching against prosperity gospel. He makes like over $1 million a year easy. He gets a salary from his church, from a college, from this and that, book sales. If you see any Christian with a book in Walmart, the same company produces that book, also produces the Satanic Bible, books on witchcraft, and gay porn, etc., etc., etc. So if they would sell out and be a same company as the same company that puts the Satanic Bible, they're sellout. And I ain't giving them none of my money. If they got, TBN had, Jan and Paul Crouch had 12 houses. Not trailers, not campers, big mansions, because people sending that money. Jan Crouch, I mean, I teach here, you know, I teach, be yourself, look yourself, be modest. But that woman looked weird. And I tell you, if you look at pictures of her without her wig on, she was 100 times better looking woman than she didn't have that wig on. She was weird. And people sent that money like it wasn't even nothing. Her granddaughter come out and said one of her kids wasn't even Paul's. Paul's alcoholic. She was running around, flying around on a jet. Some guy played Jesus in one of the movies. They had movies, had naked men's behinds and stuff in it. And another thing real quick, because I was talking about Paul and Jan Crouch. If you're married, don't talk about how good looking men are all the time. Don't talk about how good looking women are all the time. I told me and Jim when we first got together, I don't want to hear about how pretty you think a man is. I don't want to hear that stuff. Are you jealous? No, I don't want to hear it. We was around, me and Jenny was around several women that get around their husbands all the time, but like, he's pretty, he's cute, he's sexy. You know what the women did? They all cheated on their husbands. I don't put up with it. And I don't tell her I think's pretty. She knows when I was a kid, I thought Princess Leia was a pretty woman. She's dead now, so ain't no threat. Her grandma was, I told her grandma was young. Pictures of her, she looked like the Megan Fox of the mid-1900s or something, but she ain't worried about grandma, because when I met her, looks were gone. Not saying Megan Fox looks that good, kidding, but, you know. But anyway, you got to keep that stuff out of your marriage, man. That has no place in your marriage. Okay. And again, I say to you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. And yeah, you know, you read every commentary almost. Well, that just means there was a gate in Jerusalem, and a camel had a hard time getting in. Then why did Jesus say the gate? It's easier for a camel. Man, he's talking about the eye of a needle. He's making an extreme example to let you know, if you're rich, you better watch it. Because you're very easily going to put your stuff before God and you're going to hit hell wide open. Don't try to change the Bible, make it easier for rich people to get to heaven. Man, a lot of them, man, they own casinos. They own a lot of wicked, man, Rabbi, what's that Rabbi, the preacher on the watered down radio, Ravi Johnson or something? Yeah, Ravi Zacharias. Man, people used to ask me what I thought about him all the time. I said, I don't like him. He preaches a very lukewarm, watered down Christianity. I don't like nobody on that radio station. Oh, I like him. Everybody likes him. Well, that's probably a pretty bad sign. You know what he had? He was worth millions of dollars. You know what he had as a side business? Massage parlors. No wonder the guy was such a bad rapist and adulterer and all that. Careful. Most TV preachers are bad. Period. Okay. I'm almost done. I didn't mean to go so. So his disciples heard, never seen anybody. He said, who then can be saved? Now, if that meant a gate, they'd be like, well, yeah, that's pretty hard. But if he's really talking about the eye of the who can be saved? That's how we look at it. Who can be saved? Oh, it's so hard. But Jesus beheld them and said, to them, with men, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. God can change anybody's heart. God can change Bezos and Zuckerberg's heart. Then answered Peter and said to him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed. What shall we have therefore? Jesus said to them, verily I say to you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration. What's a regeneration? That's 1,000-year reign coming up. When the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also sit upon the 12 thrones, judging the tribes of Israel. Now, if we just die, go to heaven, play harps, why in the world would they be sitting on a throne judging the tribes of Israel? They're going to judge the tribes of Israel because they told in the Old Testament, you're going to have this land. They never got it, but they're going to have it. And it's going to be 1,000-year reign. Who's going to be ruling and reigning? The disciples are in Israel. Okay, and everyone that hath forsaken houses, what? Forsaken houses? For God's supposed to have 12 of them, like Jan Paul Crouch. Or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, wife, wait a minute, or children. We're supposed to forsake children for the gospel's sake. Study all the big preachers of the past. They had to leave their kids behind a lot. Billy Graham's kid, I'm not saying he was a great one, but he did have a big ministry. Listen, his kids didn't even know him when he got home. He said he'd have a baby and they'd scream when he'd come home, like, oh, who's this man? Because he had to separate, because he had a ministry to do. All these great preachers we look up to, guess what? They had to walk away from their kids for a while to get souls saved. But what we hear today, man, we can't go to church on Sunday nights, family night. We got to be with our kids and go out to restaurants and Walmart movies and all that, Family night, we're putting family before God. It's God first, then family, then church. Let me tell you, you better get your kids in church. Make that a priority. I'm not playing today, and I mean everything I say. Or less shall receive 100-fold, shall inherit everlasting life. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And again, I don't know if I went long enough. I didn't look at the clock. But man, I tell you what, play games if you want to. I'm not. Take this stuff as a joke if you want to. I'm not. I believe everything I said.